about Arsenal gem Miles Lewis Kelly. Because in the rumors there are stories of Real Madrid working on a deal, considering a deal, making contacts for Lewis Kelly from Arsenal. Many rumors on Lewis Kelly because the player is doing fantastic at Arsenal, and it's quite obvious to see this kind of stories when the player is out of contract in 1 year. So a massive opportunity on the market when you look at that with the current situation. But behind the scenes, it's important to mention one thing. First point, Real Madrid are always attentive to opportunities. Real Madrid started working on Trent deal a long time ago, putting their eyes on the situation of the player. Real Madrid always do that when there is an opportunity, when there is a talent, when there is a good player. So this is Real Madrid style. It's normal to be informed. But my information is that Arsenal are very calm, very relaxed, very confident and optimistic to get new deal done for Miles Lewis Kelly. There is a conversation ongoing. The conversation involves people close to the player, the family of the player, Arsenal, who have new director now, Andrea Berta, who arrived a few months ago. So a conversation that started before the January transfer window and then restarted with Andrea Berta as director, but going very well. So the talks are underway. Arsenal are very calm and relaxed on the contract extensions of Miles Lewis Kelly and also Ethan Nwaneri, because the idea of Arsenal is to extend both players' contract. They are obviously very happy with them, two gems of the academy, but also it's important to say that Arsenal want to trust them for present and future, so the message to the players is very clear. Also financially, they're working on that, and the deal is absolutely on for his extension at Arsenal, with Arsenal really calm on the situation. So despite the links, I wanted to send a positive message to Arsenal fans because the club is very relaxed.
We have Ben Jacobs at the top of this hour talking about Sesko and Gyokeres, both players that Arsenal are interested in. Both would, as Ben reported, cost in the region of £70 million each. Who do you want, Perry, and do Arsenal get this done?
Well, I said last week when it was Sesko who looked like that was the road that Arsenal are going down, I said I'd prefer Gyokeres, and it looks like it's sort of swung, the pendulum swung back towards Gyokeres. There's a lot of political stuff going on with Gyokeres and the president of Sport in Lisbon, because they're saying that obviously there's a gentleman's agreement that they won't ask for the release clause, and they mentioned like 50 million with add-ons. Now, if you're Gyokeres, right, I get it. If you sat in a room and the president and sport director said, look, give us one more season and we'll let you go for a cheaper price, and it's not as if he just plucked the 50 million out of the air. Do you know what I mean? That must have been mentioned somewhere.
Sure.
And all of a sudden they go back on it and they renege it. If you're Gyokeres, quite rightly, you would get the raving ump, because you've given them another season, you've kept your part of the bargain.
Gentleman's agreement, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they've moved the goalposts. See what I did there? Mm-hmm. So I think it's been reported that Arsenal offered, I think it was 50 million, then they went back with 60 million, and then it's hit a bit of a sort of a wall. So then you have to have a plan B and a plan C. So Sesko is probably the plan B.
And plan C?
Ollie Watkins, it looks like that he's like come back to the fore. Out of the three, if you look, I said with Gyokeres is 27, right? And people say, I'm not bothered about selling. You don't, when you're going for the big clubs, it's not sell-on fees. He's learnt his trade. He's 27. That is the perfect age, because you're maturing physically. You've got all the knowledge and the nous and know-how that you've learned. And if you look at Gyokeres compared to Sesko, he's 5 years more developed than what Sesko is. So Sesko is 22, and it's the risk to reward. So if you're going to pay, if I was Arsenal, I'd be going, right, let's get this done. Transfer window opens tomorrow. Prove to the player how much you want him. If it's 70 million, pay the 70 million. Do you know what I mean? We've been in this situation before where we haven't gone and paid money, and it gives the right impression that you want that player badly. We had it with, I think Suarez had a release contract, didn't he?
The extra
40 million.
bid.
And Arsene Wenger got stick, but it wasn't him who actually made that bid. He said that's disrespectful to the player, because you're not saying to the player how much you want him. You should bid, if his release clause is 40 million, bid 50. Because it shows the player how much you want him to come to your club. So, again, I've got a dog in the fight. I'd be playing, pay the money, pay the extra 10 million quid or 15 million quid to get him over the line, because I think him proving that he scored goals for Coventry City, the last two seasons there, 17 goals and 21 goals in the Championship, and the Championship is more physical than what the Premier League is.
Sure.
So it's the risk, to reward, and that's a lesser risk of all the players that I've mentioned there. He scored 97 goals in 102 games for Sporting in his last 2 seasons.
Pretty good numbers, aren't they? Yeah.
Which is unbelievable numbers.
Feels like you're going to be asked this question a lot, Perry, on this show and other TalkSport shows in the next season. But if Arsenal do get one of the two, let's say it is Gyokeres, and I hope it is because he'd be a great addition to the Premier League. Is this the year where it now feels like with Mikel Arteta, it's a must? He must go and get that big trophy. And he knows
himself. He said he dreamt about winning the big trophies, coming second 3 times. The first 2 times, you sort of get it because Man City were that good. And if it wasn't for us, we pushed Man City. We made it even more interesting right to the last game of the season. Everybody's saying Man City won the best Premier League teams you've seen. We should have benefited from their drop-off last season, which was a season later I thought it would be. No one saw Liverpool being as good and as competitive what they are. Both teams, Liverpool and Arsenal, lost 4 games each. We just drew. We had more draws than an IKEA store. Do you know what I mean?
And that's a lot of draws.
You've got to stop those draws. But with centre forward comes in, I still think we need a left winger. Now, whether that's Nico Williams or Rodrigo, whatever, because you need a step up from Martinelli and Trossard, then it takes some of the heat away from Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. Zubimendi, hopefully he'll come in because he's the perfect player to play at the base of the midfield where he's a brilliant lender and he keeps the tempo. You watch him play for Spain, he keeps the tempo of the game just tipping over. He's like Jorginho, but he's miles more mobile than what Jorginho is. So, and Arteta knows that we have to win the Premier League or the Champions League this season. It's a non-negotiable. He knows.
If he doesn't, he's done.
I don't know how far, because if you're competitive and you get, to the end of the season, but I think we have to be in the top 2 after the first 10 to 15 games and within striking distance, because not just Arsenal fans, the media, there's going to be pressure put on and saying, look, this is the year. And he knows, even if we won the FA Cup or the League Cup, right? Quite rightly, the neutrals say, well, it's only the FA Cup or League Cup. Arsenal should be now looking to win bigger trophies. And the 2 big ones at the elite level are Premier League and Champions League. So Arteta knows that he has to win one of those this season.
Well, we heard that from NJ.
Real Madrid are keeping tabs on 3 players across Europe as they look to move Bosman deals in the near future. One of them was Arsenal's Miles Lewis Skelly, a left-back who made his breakthrough for the Gunners this past season. Lewis Skelly was involved in 23 Premier League matches, almost becoming a first-team regular under Mikel Arteta during the back end of the campaign. Lewis Skelly's breakthrough has led to intense speculation over his future, especially with his contract expiring in the summer of 2026. Just hours after the report, Fabrizio Romano has now chimed in on the matter, confirming Real Madrid's interest in Lewis Skelly. It appears Los Blancos are aware of the youngster's contract situation at Arsenal and could be potentially eyeing a future Bosman move for the player. Real Madrid, after all, have shifted their transfer policy greatly in recent years, focusing more on players with expiring contracts. This was indicative in Real Madrid's deals to sign David Alaba, Kylian Mbappe and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Real Madrid could be planning to pull a same move on Lewis Skelly, although Romano adds that Arsenal are not too keen on releasing the player. The Gunners are confident of convincing the teenage prospect to sign a new deal at Emirates, which will secure his long-term future at the club. Real Madrid, therefore, may have to do more than just convincing if they are to have any hopes of signing Lewis Skelly in the future. Fortunately, the club have other options in the market, including Liverpool star Ibrahima Konate, who has emerged as a top priority for the club in 2026.